Welcome back. We are talking about the hamstring and how to train it to jump higher off of 1 and 2 feet. So, Isaiah, what is your favorite way to train the hamstring? What do you think is the most effective way? What exercise,
Yeah.
positioning? I have my opinion. I want to hear yours.
So I actually I am I'm in this weird spot where I don't know how important hamstring training is for 2-foot jumping specifically. Um but I do think it has a lot of value specifically with its transfer to the pulls. For example, an RDL I feel like can strengthen that the what would the mid shin position in a power
Like
clean?
after the first pull,
Yeah, like
or
in
like during the
between.
first pull.
Yeah, in between the first and second pull, or like the end of the first pull. Uh, I have found it to make me a lot stronger in that position, and when you're stronger in that position, you can get more loading out of the catch or the triple extension.
High tide
Um,
raise all ships, baby.
yep, yep. It can also, yeah, I would actually say that's the main thing. Um, I also believe in balancing out, like, if you're doing a lot of doing a lot of anterior work, you should balance it out with posterior chain stuff. Um, I think there's probably this is completely I haven't looked at any studies or anything. This is purely bro sciencing it, but I do feel like it could have some health benefits to not just only do quad work.
I have a lot of
Um,
different opinions with 1 foot, actually. One thing is, I think
this
as
is,
a
by the way, that's for 2 foot specifically.
Pure 2 foot, yeah.
Yeah.
For 1 foot, I think that it's really important, actually. I think that one major contributor to success in 1 foot jumping is the ability to pre-contract the quad prior to touchdown, meaning you're generating tension in the rec fem, medialis, intermedius, lateralis, those 4 quad muscles. And to do that, what allows you to still angulate the knee but be able to generate that tension is co-contraction, meaning there's muscles contracting on both sides. And I think when the hamstring is really, really weak and specifically lacks rate of force development, you can actually lead. It can lead to pulls right prior to touchdown. I've seen this a handful of times in really, really elite jumpers. I don't really see it in Bailey's pushing me backwards on my chair. I don't really see it too often in guys that aren't very talented, but with really, really capable guys, especially very fast takeoffs, you'll see them pull their hamstrings sometime. And
I've
it's
seen it with
because
2-footers on the penultimate. It's pretty rare, but I've seen it
during
happen.
the
The
plant leg or the penultimate step.
the penultimate step
Steven
specifically.
used to get that. Steven used to tweak his hamstring. He also, I mean, he had a lot of hamstring tendon issues actually on that
Yeah,
as
and
well.
Steven had a ton of speed and would push hard on his
Yeah,
penultimate.
he accelerated
It was like
fast.
both. Like, he was running fast and accelerating through the penultimate really hard.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with that. It seems like there's a really important aspect of the hamstring being able to generate force fast because the hamstring or because the quad is pre-contracting so quickly. So
Yeah.
if your hamstring can't generate that force fast enough, it's gonna pull.
You
And
know who
specifically,
jumps just like him, by the way?
by the way, if you want to get faster RFD in your hamstring, click the link in the description. Anyways, what
Yeah.
were you saying?
Uh, you know who jumps just like him?
Like Steven?
Yeah.
Like Steven,
Steven
crossbody
Selly, by the way. If you guys don't know what we're
swing.
talking about, look up Steven Selly dunks
Is he a
on YouTube.
pro?
No.
He's not a pro.
Big following on YouTube though.
Hoopin' Nate?
Yeah. Bro, I want you to just as a side thing in your free
A
time,
side quest.
just watch them both side by side. Hoopin' Nate's more mobile. Like, Steven had a like externally rotated hits, but if you look at their approach and the speed and the rhythm, they're both right left. Like, it's so similar. Like, it's just like full sending it, and it's
I
pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see.
I think Nate is now, speaking of him, I think we talked about it, but I think he's probably 38 to 40 inch vert. He PR'd his flight time at 0.88 or something like that.
Yeah.
And obviously he got his first dunk. I was thinking of a
We should
pro
get
someone.
him on here. We should get
Yeah, we should.
Nate.
I
Now that
love
he
Nate.
dunked, he
Good kid,
dunked.
man.
How did
He's
he
such a good kid.
interview him? But besides the point. So we see some benefits, co-contraction, and on the penultimate step, potentially on 2
I was
feet.
going to say too, I do think it helps. Specifically, I've always seen a really strong correlate with my RDL and 1 foot jumping. When I feel really good in RDL, I feel really, really good jumping off 1 foot. I think part of it is that when you're dunking specifically, you don't have as high of run-up velocities. I haven't noticed that as much in high jump, but definitely dunking and vert testing. Because the run-up is so much slower, I think it's more of a propulsive activity in the hip when you're actually pushing off the ground. And if you watch from the backside in a lot of dunkers, there's like a ripple from like the outside of your butt cheek all the way down into your leg and your lat. And that's the hip basically forcefully contracting and the pelvis is undulating. One side's pushing down, one side's pushing up.
Bro, it would be fascinating to see someone like in the no diddy way possible. It would be fascinating to see someone dunk butt naked, just to see like the no diddy in the most.
You know, when you were lifting today, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, yeah, dude, I wish he was naked right now.
This is in the manliest, most scientific way possible.
Right. Like straight testosterone way of viewing it. Anyways, yeah. But I think, yeah, for hip extension for sure. When it comes to flexion exercises, I don't see as much value outside of just, like you said, making sure that you're leaving no stones unturned. I do think that there's a little bit of benefit there. I mean,
what about
maybe accelerating into the plant, like accelerating into the takeoff? I think there's some benefit there. You might get a little bit of, even if it's just 1 or 0.5%, there might be some benefit there as well. What were you going to say though?
What about flexion, knee flexion?
That's what I was saying. Yeah, for like knee flexion exercises.
Oh, okay.
I think that you might get, something like a Nordic or something like a hamstring curl.
Yeah.
I think one is body comp. I've always seen like really good body comp changes when I'm just able to do those, specifically lying hamstring curls, because they're so easy to integrate. You can add them as an accessory work at the end of a workout. It doesn't really tax you at all. Even as a 1 foot jumper, there's really not much there.
And
I think also the neurological aspects with like eccentrics, really, really positive outcome.
You can also get, it offloads the back too. If you do a lot of hinging, that can really stress your back. And yeah, with our workouts, we usually like alternate like a day of RDL, and then the next day will usually be some kind of flexion. And then we also program, if we're doing like loaded back stuff, like let's say heavy back squats.
Right.
We usually do
I'm not loading
flexion.
up heavy RDLs.
But if we're doing like belt squat or front squat, we like pairing that with RDL.
Yeah, I think they pair really nicely because it is a good way to still maintain stability in the core, which when we say the core, we're talking about all the intra-abdominal muscles, meaning the deep core muscles of your abs, of your obliques, of your low back, and not just necessarily like your abs, your rectus abdominis. We're talking all those deep muscles. And I think it's a really easy way to kind of neglect those muscles if you're only on the belt squat or you're only on the machines. I've even noticed that myself. You do need to develop those deep, core stability muscles. Jumping at the end of the day is really high forces, ground reaction forces. And so if your spine can't handle that, you're going to be in trouble. But you don't want so much where that bucket's overflowing. So I think, like you said, especially when you're really heavy back squats in a really high volume, high intensity, like heavy workload, it is one of the easiest things to throw in there where you can still check boxes, but you're not necessarily overdoing it too much. So I feel like it offers a lot of utility there as well. That's the podcast, guys.
By the way, if you're curious about what our training looks like, there's a free week that you can get in the description.
Oh, yeah, that is there. That's the end of the video, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.